Hey guys, we used our fall break from school this year to finally go on a trip. This is the first time we've ever done anything for fall break, and we chose to go to Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. This is something Ryan and I thought would be really fun, and we drug the rest of the family along for the ride. So as you can see right here, we are in Keystone, South Dakota, and this is just on the main highway through the town. It looks like most tourist towns. Beautiful facade on the street, lots of tourist shops where you can buy souvenirs, things like that. We actually enjoy driving past this area. There's like a chainsaw carving company of some sort, and they had a big Sasquatch carved out of wood just around the corner here. And it was really fun to see. Now, we chose to visit during the month of October, and that was very nice for a couple of reasons. The hotel rates were a lot less expensive than they would be during peak summer travel months, and the weather was a lot cooler. We also tried to head to Mount Rushmore a little bit earlier in the morning. I think we had left the hotel about 8:30, and it was like a 5-minute drive to get to Mount Rushmore. So it was a little earlier in the day, a lot less people, and we really enjoyed that. Mount Rushmore was carved into the Black Hills near Keystone, South Dakota. It is free to visit, but there is a $10 parking fee. Mount Rushmore was carved between 1927 to 1941, and it features 4 of the United States presidents. Each of the heads are approximately 60 feet tall, so that was no small feat. The process in which the faces were carved into the stone was really quite fascinating. You can learn about that in the visitor center. This is a bust of Gutzon Borglum. He was the sculptor overseeing the project. So the visitor center is located on the lower level, just above the amphitheater. And it was a lot of fun to see the different exhibitions they had set up. There's a small film you can watch about the process of carving the stone and how they use dynamite to remove most of the stone. There's also a walkway that you can take. It's, I believe, around a half a mile that you can walk a little nearer the mountain and get some fun views of the carving. Delilah said that this was her favorite part of our trip, coming to Mount Rushmore. We did have a very enjoyable time there. We weren't there for very long, I think only maybe a couple hours, but it was a good use of our time. During this trip, we also were able to drive a small bit out of our way and go see some of our family in Wyoming. That was just really great to be able to take my kids to see my uncle, my aunt, and show them where they live out literally in the middle of nowhere. Their driveway is 4.5 miles long, and that just really blew my kids' mind that they had such a long driveway and nothing around them. And I wish that I would have filmed a little bit with my uncle and aunt, but I didn't. But it was still so fun to get to see them. So the squirrel came running up the steps on the presidential loop. and it was chasing a small chipmunk, and we think it must have stolen whatever it's munching on there, but Sage and I had an enjoyable time watching it. After leaving Mount Rushmore, we stopped at a pull-off area near this lake, and we thought it was really fascinating that people had signed the guardrail and written where they were from. I've never seen that before. The next stop was to go to Crazy Horse Monument, and I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. I think this was actually my favorite part of our trip, getting to learn about the history behind the monument and what it represents. And they had this visitor center. It's filled with Native American art and history. It was just really enjoyable to hear the stories. So learning about the sculptor, his family, the monument, and everything that went into Crazy Horse was really fascinating. And if you have the chance to go, I definitely recommend it. I actually hope to go back several years from now and just see the progress on the carving itself and to see how quickly it gets finished. The story behind Crazy Horse and the memorial and what it represents is what really makes Crazy Horse Memorial such a fantastic place. After spending several hours at the Crazy Horse Memorial, we had some lunch in Custer, and then we decided to drive the scenic wildlife loop in Custer State Park. That's where you can see all these bison. I've never been so close to so many bison before, so that was really quite fun. The kids really enjoyed it. We had a lot of wildlife that we were able to see on this trip. In the state park, we saw bison, white-tailed deer. We saw some coyote, a lot of birds. I think the only thing we really didn't see is we did not see elk, or we did not see bear. We did enjoy driving this scenic loop and getting to see the mountains and the wildlife and foliage. So right here we can see some pronghorn. They were just so used to all of the traffic and people, they weren't worried about getting across the street quickly at all. And here are some white-tailed deer. So after leaving the state park, we went ahead and drove down to Sundance. Now, Wyoming was predicted to get between like 6 to 14 inches of snow that night. And when we woke up the next morning, this was all the snow that had stuck. So just a very light dusting. You can see it coming down. Now we stayed in this cute little mom and pop style hotel. It was probably the best hotel we stayed in during this trip. We actually enjoyed it quite a lot. Now, the camera wasn't very good there, but you could see it trying to storm a little bit. So from Sundance, we drove down to Devil's Tower, and that's where we're at right now. Now, you'll see a lot of fallen trees. That is because in the middle of August, they had a supercell storm that really just came through and decimated the area. They have been cleaning up the trees. You can see where they've sawed them up and moved them off the trail. This little path was nice because it went around Devil's Tower, so you could go the full loop around it. It was very slick though because it was trying to snow. It was about 37 degrees and trying to snow, so it was pretty chilly. Now, I really love the history behind the area, like the story of the area. And this is a really fascinating story with Devil's Tower. You can see in the trees, there's all these scraps of fabric, there's clothing, prayer bundles. Now that is from the Native American people because this is a sacred site to the Native American people, and they come here to offer these prayer bundles. The story behind Devil's Tower is really interesting. The legend goes that some girls were playing in the woods and a group of bears came up on them, and the girls ran to the tallest rock and climbed up, and they began to pray to their great maker, asking to save them. And this rock just lifted them. It came up out of the ground and it lifted them into the sky, and the bear tried to get to them still, and they were jumping at the rock and clawing, and as they clawed, it created the grooves seen on the rock formation. Now the sisters are known as the Seven Sisters. It's believed that they are part of the Great Maker took them up into the sky, and they are a constellation in the night sky. And I just really love hearing the legends behind these really cool areas. Another cool fact about Devil's Tower is that it is the first national monument to have been established in the United States. It was set as a national monument in 1906 by President Theodore Roosevelt, and that is neat in itself. You'll also notice there were some little tubes that you could look through, and they also have binoculars mounted in various locations around the monument. It was just too foggy or misty of a day for us to benefit from being able to use those, as the top of the monument where the tubes were pointed, it was just white, and then also the binoculars were just had some condensation, so we weren't able to really view anything through those, but a really nice feature. I also really love when I'm trying to just stand still and record my kids doing something wherever we're at, because they always look so unhappy, and I don't know why that is. It's like the camera comes out so they cannot smile. So when we were finishing up at Devil's Tower, we'd gone in the visitor center and whatever. Right here where we have this picture, there is a selfie stand where you can set your phone with a timer to get a selfie, but someone passing by offered to take a picture, and we thought we would get a better picture that way. Anyways, we had so much fun on this trip. If you ever get the chance to go to South Dakota, it is worth the drive. I think total this weekend we spent about 24 hours just driving, and it was a big trip. Thanks for coming along with us. We'll see you next time.